What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to go over some of the data points and break it down on why a lot of them are signaling that what's happened to Lucid over the last several days has been a very big overreaction. So I'm going to go over some of that as well, just briefly touch on some individuals that are kind of predicting that Lucid is on the verge of collapse. So I wanted to kind of break that down. So I'm going to go over all that, but first make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently we are down 2.36%, a little bit lower for volume. So 21 million shares being traded, 45 is the average, but that typically does happen on Fridays. So once again, just letting you know about that. At the time of doing this video, there hasn't been any recent SEC filings, no press releases, nothing along those lines. So it is just merely following the broader market and just a lot of people still trying to digest and analyze, sometimes overanalyze the recent earnings. And when it came down to it as well, there was an analyst ratings from 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗖𝗧, if I'm saying that right. They do have a 69% success rating, and he's one of the analysts that did actually ask a question during the Q2 earnings, and his viewpoint was more so on the kind of the future. So as far as the economics and obviously them cutting the prices 18.8% across a couple of their vehicles, I think that caused a little bit more of a concern for him particularly, and you can tell that based on his question. But he did give a sell rating and a $5 target. So it kind of matching Morgan Stanley, aka Adam Jonas. It shows unknown analyst, but it is Adam Jonas. So kind of not necessarily the best in that regard. So that's kind of what's causing a lot of people a lot of uneasiness, if that makes sense today. So once again, that's kind of what is floating around right now. But despite that though, there is a lot of good data that's coming out, including options. So when it comes down to options today, there's $1.31 million in calls being purchased versus 590,000 in puts. So based on this, people are anticipating for Lucid to continue to trend up. And just for full transparency, even myself, I did buy in today and I'm pretty happy. It did go down as low as $6.49, and I am happy to have bought 900 additional shares at $6.50. Somehow I'm very good at catching the bottom. I've always done that on any stock, but regardless though, I do believe in Lucid bigger picture. So I know based on the Q2 earnings, which I know I have been very critical on Lucid in the past as far as the earnings and kind of showing some demand issues, but this recent earnings, I feel like they answered a lot of the questions. They were a lot more transparent and they kind of gave a little bit more of a bright future. So once again, this is why I did decide to buy today. I was just waiting for the optimum day potentially, but you do get a lot of individuals such as this 𝗪𝗪𝗧, if I'm saying that correctly. He has done quite a few posts and a couple of videos on how he does feel Lucid is on the brink of collapse. In his video, I believe he does talk on how there's been over the last 5 quarters just a excessive amount of production and kind of lackluster deliveries, which once again, that is exactly why I've been bringing up on a lot of my videos, how there's been a lot of demand issues, and even them recently cutting their prices by 18.8% did kind of signal the fact that there was a potential further demand issue. But once again, during the Q2 earnings, they answered everything. They were the most transparent in this earnings than anything. So they outright answered the question as far as why there was only 1,404 vehicles being delivered in Q2. They answered the question, why is there so many vehicles sitting around? They answered everything that you needed to know. The only thing I was kind of disappointed on, a side note about the earnings, which I've already brought up, was ESS, only because I do feel that does have a lot of good opportunity going forward. But regardless, I'm not going to fret on that. I'm not going to worry overly. But again, going back to some of the data points, a lot of this is signaling the fact that this is a overreaction, the fact that it's selling off, and that I do feel that bigger things might be coming, at least in the short term. Just on a side note though, I'm not a financial advisor, so you guys always do your own due diligence. So I brought this up already as far as this. So this is the grid that shows all the calls, strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this, it is anticipated to go between the $7 range and around the $8 range going into next week. So even this, it does anticipate for a little bit more of a rally. And for a Friday, surprisingly, I know this doesn't look like much, but for purchasing on the secondary market, a lot of big money is buying. So once again, that might be a positive sign. Dark pool is a little bit lower as well as far as the frequency. So I know this kind of seems like a lot, but again, coming from the dark pool standpoint, it's not. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of what shorts are doing, which once again, even this data is kind of of optimistic. So short score is currently 74, utilization is 83.21%. But despite the analyst rating, despite everything, shorts are returning 2.56 million shares. And the fact that they are doing this on a red day does signal that they feel that this is an overreaction as well. So there's a lot of this data that is all signaling the same thing, that Lucid is set to go up. Of course, some data can be wrong and just misinterpreted and so forth, but the fact that 3 data points are all signaling the same thing, once again, I do feel going into next week, it might start fresh and Lucid might be able to trend up higher. So I'll go over some of the data points and technicals and stuff like that that you need to know. Cost to borrow though is just pennies, so 1.57%, so that's very, very low. But when it comes down to it, like I mentioned, a lot of big money has been getting in today, and based on the latest round of 13Fs, you do see a lot of big transactions starting to kind of increase their position. And Rafferty looks like they increased 79.8%. I'm really going to butcher their name right here, but they did increase their calls, their actual physical shares, but unfortunately they did also increase their puts, which is a common strategy for institutions anyways. But no matter what, you do see a lot of institutions still continuously increasing their position, and still when it comes down to it, the bigger players such as BlackRock and Vanguard most likely will be disclosing their positions, and also the PIF early next week. So those are the ones that you really want to watch for. So let me know you guys' thoughts on that in the comments below. So even though Lucid technically in Q2 wasn't really the best performing stock, surprisingly, a lot of institutions kind of held their ground. So once again, I'm kind of impressed by this, but still, like I mentioned, nothing really coming out from the company itself. So I feel like based on what they did say in the Q2 earnings, they're really going to be doing a lot of launch events and hopefully a lot more marketing. So in turn, that might actually result in more PR. So I feel like there's a lot of unanswered stuff, even based on my video yesterday about the phase 3 expansion. And I noticed they didn't even bring that up in the Q2 earnings about them concluding phase 2, because I feel like that would significantly be able to ramp up on production at the AMP1 facility. And then effective, I guess, on September the 1st will be Saudi Arabia. So that whole facility will be locked and loaded to produce a lot more vehicles. But like I mentioned, given all the data and all of it pointing very optimistic, if you want to consider it that way, I just want to give you a quick breakdown of potentially what might be coming next. So looking here at the momentum indicator, shows number of retail investors have been getting out. Stochastic, there is a little bit more of a bearish sentiment starting to form as of today, and it is at 47, so kind of neutral in that regard. But looking right here, so with it being at $6.63 and looking at the fib levels, it is currently between this S2 and the S1. So this S2 kind of did hold today, so $6.43 is that next big support, and $6.85 is that next big resistance. And the fact is that we are currently below that 50-day moving average. So in general, I think that the consolidation might have occurred today, so I think we'll be able to try again tomorrow. And of course that 50-day moving average is exactly right here, so at this S1. So there's a lot of heavy resistance at that stage, but I do feel that the fact that a lot of the data points are all signaling that this is an overreaction, that we'll be able to get above that. And of course I don't need to explain to you guys the fact that that 50-day moving is key for Lucid. So if it can get above that, then big things might be coming, as you can kind of tell based on this. So again, the technicals I do feel isn't screaming buy right now or anything, but if you kind of look at a lot of the other data points and piggyback and merge it all together, I think this is why I do feel that big things might be coming. And again, this is why I added to my position, so added another 900 across 3 different accounts, in fact. So once again, let me know you guys' thoughts on all of this. What is your viewpoint on this analyst rating? So 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗖𝗧, or whatever his name is. Of course, during the Q2 earnings, he wasn't that optimistic based on his question. So do you think this was more unbiased? Because I believe that he also did give a rating for Rivian and also previously Tesla that were very bullish. So do you think that this is more just against Lucid? What's your kind of take on all of this? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And take advantage of free promos, and that is this. We'll link in the description below and also the comment. Completely free to sign up for an account, but if you do throw $100 at it, you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so even that is a crazy deal. But better yet, you do get a $50 cash reward as well. So it's a win-win. Link in the description below and also the comments. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a ton of money on Lucid.